All right, well, a lot has happened since I last recorded an episode for this show. The thing is it was my birthday on Sunday, and then I traveled back home, which was like 2.5 hour drive. I stayed with my family for a couple days, and it wasn't really at an awkward time too. I could have pre-recorded it, but what would I have talked about? All of this interesting information, like the Jontay Porter thing, which I will talk about for a little bit, but also all of the play-in games. Like the play-in hadn't wrapped up before I left, just the first set of games. Now here we are. It's Saturday. Happy 420 for those of you who celebrate, by the way. There's a lot more to talk about. There's going to be a lot of games going on today, so that's how I'm going to celebrate 420 with some playoff basketball. What I wrote down in my phone is Jontay Porter is a moron, and I think that is a little harsh, I will say. There's a lot of people talking like, oh, so he gets punished, but then people like Miles Bridges and Josh Giddey get to not really face any repercussions, and then Ja and Draymond kind of get like light sentences in the eyes of some people. And obviously, without question, the NBA is responsible partially for the Jontay Porter situation because they promote gambling so heavily on all of the social platforms. Shams, the guy who reported the news, has a partnership with DraftKings. I don't personally think that Jontay Porter being stupid and doing something dumb mitigates any of that other stuff because those are valid problems in the league. The NBA is never a place where two wrongs make a right, and I will say that Kevin Porter Jr. does not have a job. So that's a good thing, right? As for Jontay Porter, I think that, first of all, when you're a guy that's on a two-way contract, you haven't even made the NBA fully yet, to bet $80,000 on your unders, whether he did it or somebody else did it, he looked at that and thought that that was a totally normal plan. Nobody is putting $80,000 on Jontay Porter props. If you are even close to over $1,000 for a Jontay Porter prop, let alone an under, which that's my thing too. People are talking about like Pete Rose and stuff. Pete Rose bet on himself to win. So not close to the same thing. He said, I'm going to fake some injuries and illnesses, or I am injured and ill, so I'm going to try and start, but then I'm going to come out due to this injury that I am suffering. Whatever it was stupid, and he should receive a lifetime ban. He was expendable, and the NBA needed to send a message. Now, should the NBA stop having partnerships with gambling companies? Yes. When you have such an audience, especially when you're the NBA, you are a sports league and one of the most popular in the country, you have a duty to at least responsibly promote this stuff. All of these props and things that these companies do is like, oh, put $20 down and get 100, or put $5 down and get 100 free to bet with. And it's like, that's cool, but that is how people get hooked on gambling. And all you have to do is hit one parlay to think that life is like this magical place and gambling is the solution to getting rich. And it's not. To promote these things and make it seem like, and kind of trick your brain into promoting it like it's somehow going to benefit you. It's not. Gambling does not benefit you. It is fun. Like, I'm sure it's fun to gamble on sports games. I'm not going to. I obviously just turned 21, so now I'm allowed to. It's just not something I feel like I want to participate in. I don't want to promote it on this channel ever. I know people that are just degenerate gamblers, like gambling literally their rent on the Super Bowl. And it's just like, yeah, I'm sure it pays off every now and then. And when it does, you get a fucking high from that. Like, I know the hit, like when that parlay hits, that dopamine rush is crazy. I understand, but you're hooked. And it's not set up in your favor for you to win because the gambling companies wouldn't make money if people on average won. And you can think you're smarter than the system. I did for a while think that like, oh, I'll just set up $5 super long parlay bets that are all guaranteed to hit. It's not in your favor. So I just wanted to say that in general, I think the endorsement of gambling is bad from the NBA. To promote all of this gambling and then suspend your players or ban your players for gambling, it is definitely hypocritical in a sense. This guy gambled on himself. It's like I don't know if anyone's seen Daredevil, but it's that, like, Daredevil's dad ends up getting shot because there's these like promoters that are essentially betting him to lose every time, and he loses. and then gets part of their pay cut. So he would get paid more to lose on purpose. It's such a weird thing because it's supposed to be like this heroic moment of like, wow, he's doing it for his son, so his son gets to see him win. It's like, no, dude, he's literally committing suicide by winning that fight and leaving his son without a family. So went on a little tangent there, but I've always thought that was super weird. Back to the Jontay Porter thing for the 1,000th time. If he bet on himself instead of betting on himself, if you understand the distinction, like if he bet on him and his talent to make it to the NBA instead of literally placing bets on himself to make money, he would probably have made a lot more money. And again, $80K for $1 million payout. I hope your million was worth it, man. I'm not even sure about the details if he even got the money. The whole situation is just bizarre. It's just bizarre. It's very clear to me that when the NBA is now in this position where this isn't something that their league has really, in my memory, had an issue with. Now they have Jontay Porter here. No disrespect to the guy, but is anybody going to really think about it? Like, if Jontay Porter disappeared from the league and got cut, no one is going to think, oh, what happened to that guy? This is why his name is out there, is because of this scandal. I don't think that he's going to be really missed. And again, I think there's a very clear difference between like betting on games that you're not playing in. That would be different, right? But he literally bet on himself to suck. Again, not Pete Rose. People are like, oh, he's Pete Rose. No, Pete Rose bet on the team to win. Jontay Porter bet on himself and the team to lose and be bad. And that is just so dumb. Everything about that is dumb and stupid, and I don't have any respect for that. I'm sorry, but if you're an NBA player, I know you're trying to make it, but just have a little faith in yourself and your talent that got you there, and maybe instead of committing a crime, maybe you could handle it differently. Although I will say, it's not like Jontay Porter stuck it to the NBA at all. Jontay Porter stuck it to the gambling companies, who like I said, don't really mess with. So in that regard, I do have respect that at least he wasn't like screwing over the NBA itself. But again, the NBA is very heavily marketing these gambling companies, receiving lots of money from these gambling companies, promoting them. It's kind of like how oil companies have bought politicians. It's like, are we really going to actually take a stance on this? No, because they're in your pocket, right? It's bought and paid for already. Jontay Porter should have known better. You're Jontay Porter. Nobody really knows you. And you place $80K on yourself to be bad? Like that just in general, conceptually was a bad idea from the start. I'm not really disappointed of this is the result. Like a lifetime ban was probably written before he even started this. Like, he is the sacrificial lamb, and now everybody knows, don't gamble. And he had to be that, sacrificial lamb, as I've said. So I'm not going to talk too much more on it. It's a sad situation. He definitely had a promising potential career. We'll never know. But I don't think the lifetime ban was harsh. I think what he did was incredibly stupid. And I think that in general, the NBA did what it had to do. Although I may disagree with how they promote these gambling companies, at the end of the day, you as a basketball player can't spend your money to infinite money glitch your way through gambling, on your props, especially not taking the unders on yourself. So, I don't know. All right, I got to run through all of the playoff games here. Starting off with the play-in tournament, the first game that I saw, and I actually watched this game front to end, was Sixers Heat. And it was an interesting game. Both teams got off to kind of slow starts, especially Jimmy and Embiid. Jimmy was not having a great game before or after the injury, which shout out to Jimmy for being so tough and, playing through an MCL sprain. Like, that's crazy. We thought it was an MCL tear, so glad that it isn't. Probably won't matter. I'll get to the Celtics Heat first round in a minute here. It is 1 o'clock now, so as I'm recording this on Saturday, it is the start of Magic Cavs, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. I'm really excited for that series, but I got to get through the play-in first, so bear with me. The Heat obviously had a lead for most of the game, and then down the stretch, Nicholas Batum decided to just go off. And it's so funny because there was a Miami Heat fan, like a streamer, watching the game, and he was just losing his mind about the Nicholas Batum thing. I don't wish that type of stuff on many people, but after Caleb Martin almost won finals or Eastern Conference Finals MVP, I think that I have a right to enjoy that a little bit. Listen, I watched Caleb Martin go nuclear for like 7 straight games. Like, the man unironically outplayed Jaylen Brown in that conference final series. I love Jaylen Brown to death, and that is not happening again. But again, we'll get there. Tyler Herro shot them out of this game. Jimmy Butler did not have a great game. Tyler did have some good shots down the stretch. The Nick Batum push that led to the Tyler backcourt was a little sketchy, I will say. And Embiid did hit a couple of good threes too. They left him like way more open than they should have. It really felt like he and 76ers were making the playoffs regardless. It was just interesting of like, okay, well, who are the Celtics playing? Is it going to be Philly or is it going to be Miami? I would have been okay with a Philly matchup with the Celtics round 1 or the Heat Knicks matchup too, but everything played out exactly how I dreamed of. In the last couple weeks, I said it on the last show, but it's actually crazy that the dream matchups that I had actually played out perfectly, which also is like kind of questionable from the NBA because it's like, did we script this? Did we rig this somehow? I guess we'll never know. And honestly, I don't care because I like all these playoff matchups so much. I'm really excited to break those down. Again, really good game here. It was a defensive battle between Philly and Miami. Obviously, Jimmy Butler got hurt, which sucks. And then Philly moves on to the 7th seed. They're going to play the New York Knicks. I'm going to go to the next East play-in game, which was between the Chicago Bulls and the Atlanta Hawks. Towards the end of the first half, Trae Young goes for a steal, super lazy defense, gives up a 3, and then kind of just dribbles the ball out. And they don't get a shot off at the half. I don't know. I don't want to buy into the rumors too much, but Trae Young has been getting shopped all season, and I really think there's a good shot that the Hawks trade both of them, both DeJounte and Trae. It really sucks that it hasn't worked out because I really like Atlanta, not as much as 2K does because they win way more games than they should no matter what happens in that game. 2K loves the Hawks. I don't know what is wrong with them. I don't know. I like Trae Young. He definitely had a cool little rivalry with the Knicks. So, I don't know. I'll definitely talk about it more later. I'm going to table this discussion for another time just because the playoffs are on right now, and that's really more what I want to talk about. I will say this. Trae Young or DeJounte Murray in Orlando. I think I'd rather DeJounte go to Orlando and then Trae go to San Antonio, just because Trae is a volume scorer that San Antonio needs right now, and him and Wemby would be kind of like how Harden and Embiid were. In general, you have such a skilled basketball player. While effort is kind of a question sometimes on defense, Popovich is the type of coach that's going to get that out of him, whereas DeJounte Murray in Orlando is just such a natural fit, big guard, someone who can definitely play good defense, good distributor, good ball handler. He's got a good mid-range game. I don't know if I love the fit next to Paolo just because Paolo needs shooters. And that was kind of my thought of like, oh, maybe Trae Young. But Trae's not a spot-up guy, and DeJounte can hit the 3. It's not like how the Celtics, when Marcus Smart was on the court, where teams would just let him shoot open 3s, or like Grant Williams too. Now the Celtics have obviously 5 people on the court when they're fully healthy that all are great shooters from every spot. With the Orlando Magic, the only thing they really need is some shooters, some good two-way players. Like they already have guys like Joe Ingles and, I don't know, Gary Harris could be an upgrade that they need to like move on from, but again, I'll talk more about Orlando in a minute here. I'm going to talk real quick about the Chicago-Miami game because I watched it all the way through. Like the whole time, Miami was leading. Miami went up big. They went up 20 in like the first quarter. Chicago had points where they made some good runs and kept it close. Like I couldn't ever turn the game off because it really was possible that Chicago came back. And I was interested just because last year Chicago had a big lead on Miami. Maybe not as big as 20 points, but they were definitely up double digits. And then with a couple minutes to go, they were up like 4. And obviously Miami goes on a huge run last year's play-in game and takes the 8th seed and then knocks off Milwaukee in 5. That's not going to happen this year. It's just not. Chicago is a very weird team. I think, honestly, they're kind of like how Orlando has been in the past couple of years. They're really just since they drafted Paolo, where it's like, Yeah, if the team gets healthy, like if they get Lonzo back, if they have a healthy Levine, like they have some good winning players like Drummond and Caruso. We'll see if they keep those guys around. They obviously have to re-sign DeRozan. They've got Vucevic still, and Patrick Williams too. So there was no Patrick Williams, there was no Levine, there was no Lonzo. It's not to make all these excuses. Chicago wasn't a great team this year. They were pretty much the definition of mediocre. It's not like there's a real championship window there. I think that's probably passed, but just because they don't really have a ton of their first-round picks, I think it's totally fine to try and remain competitive. And if they can get healthy, they could definitely get into those top, 5 or 6 seeds. It's really going to be interesting the next 4 years of what happens to the East. I think there's going to be a lot of shuffling every single year. So it's not over for Chicago, but it doesn't really matter for them. You get a lottery pick now where you otherwise wouldn't have. We'll see if they can jump up in the lottery, maybe. Who knows? But as for Miami, they had no Jimmy Butler and no Terry Rozier. They still balled out. They closed the game down. They shut the door, turned the lights off, whatever you want to say. They did a really good job. They were better than Chicago. I was much happier as a Celtics fan that the Heat moved on. I don't know. It was kind of like the Hawks series last year. It was like, okay, cool, we're playing Atlanta. I didn't really like the Atlanta matchup for Boston. It wasn't as interesting. And I know Miami's probably not going to have Jimmy at all. Obviously, this doesn't really count because there's no Jimmy. Well, like I said, we'll get there. So I just finished up the eastern side of the play-in tournament. Now I'm going to go to the west. The Lakers-Pelicans game, I watched the first quarter and a half of. I didn't watch the rest of that game. I didn't get to catch Warriors-Kings at all. This is going to be more of a narrative standpoint from what I understand of the game. Yeah, so the Kings blew out the Warriors. One thing I want to say is that Moses Moody is such a good player. Such a good player. And Steve Kerr just doesn't play him. And that really frustrates me. Let the young guys hoop, okay? I'm not saying trade Curry and start Moses Moody and, that's dumb. But play the guy. He's a good player. You have good young players on the team. Either trade him for somebody or play them. Steve Kerr needs to play the young guys. Period. End of story. He's kind of got that Doc Rivers thing. I don't know why coaches do that. It's dude, you can have a young player playing on a championship team. Inexperience just is not a thing if they're not the best players on the team. You saw Christian Brown last year in the playoffs. Seeing Christian Brown in the playoffs, I just really realized that it just doesn't matter. Age does not matter. Jason Tatum went toe-to-toe with LeBron his rookie year. At 19 years old, Game 7 versus LeBron James. Did LeBron James have, any help? No. But it's rookie Jason Tatum going toe-to-toe with LeBron James. That's incredible. In other news in this game, Keegan Murray is an absolute sniper. Another guy that has really developed this season is Keon Ellis. Sacramento has really got something with him. He's a great defensive guard. In this game, listen to this stat line. 15, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, 3 steals on 8 shots. 3 for 4 from 3, 2 of 2 free throws. He did have 3 turnovers, but, so many winning plays that are showing up in this, box score, let alone how many that you don't, see in the box score. I really like the Sacramento Kings. With the Lakers game, pretty much everybody besides Zion being awful. Herb Jones is good and Trey Murphy is good. 10, 12, and 5. Larry Nance is just such a bizarre player. I guess it's more CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram and Jonas Valanciunas, respectively. Those 3 guys shot a combined 9 of 34. That's not good. I don't need to say that, but McCollum, 4 of 15. Valanciunas, 1 of 7. Ingram, 4 of 12. 9 of 34 combined. That is not good. Yeah, Zion put up, a ridiculous 40 ball on 27 shots, making 17 of them. And Zion is so crazy because he just doesn't shoot threes. They leave him wide open. He took 1 and he missed it. But he's just such a physical player. And then obviously he gets hurt, so it's just that sucks. I want to say shout out to D'Angelo Russell, not only for being a great pickup mid-season for my fantasy team. He obviously has his stinkers. He's not as consistent a player as you'd love. Absolutely a great supporting piece on this team. Someone that definitely deserves more respect from both the fans and the media. D'Lo is really talented, and his career progression, while not necessarily what everyone wanted or expected out of him, it's still pretty impressive what he's doing at this point, especially on a team that hopes to upset the defending champs. And we'll get there in a second. But yeah, just the Lakers-Pelicans game was really interesting. It was pretty competitive. Lakers-Pels is a matchup we've seen with high stakes before, and the Lakers have won both matchups. So Lakers were able to assert themselves, and somehow the Lakers climbed out and got the 7th seed, which they're going to be rewarded by playing Denver, which sucks. So yeah, last night it was Pelicans-Kings. That's the one that I haven't talked about yet. And Pelicans-Kings was a weird game because obviously no Zion, but the Pelicans were still able to claw it out. De'Aaron Fox is just such a funny player because he puts up so many shots. He's like, it's him, Donovan Mitchell, and like maybe Luka. There's definitely one other guy that you watch them, and like, for example, De'Aaron Fox, you see 35, 7, and 5 with 3 steals, and you're like, God damn, that's a crazy stat line. And then you look at his box score more, and it's like 12 for 29 from the field, 4 for 16 from 3, 7 of 11 from the free throw line, 5 turnovers. If De'Aaron was a little bit more efficient, the Kings probably pull this one out. And definitely a atrocious game from Keegan Murray. You needed that efficiency that you got from him in the first play-in game against the Warriors, but you didn't get it. Shot wasn't on. That sucks. I think that's a credit to New Orleans and their defenders. Herb Jones is spectacular. Trey Murphy is great. I love the Pelicans. I really do. Brandon Ingram did have a good game. He had 24, 6, and 6. Brandon Ingram doesn't shoot a ton of threes, honestly. He didn't in this game, at least. 1 for 2, but he got his buckets when he needed to. It was really just a team effort for New Orleans, honestly. Herb didn't have a crazy stat line game. He didn't take a ton of shots. Neither did McCollum. I said this a while ago, but I need to restate it. What I did was I compared CJ McCollum to Kemba Walker on the Celtics, and it's just kind of like, that's the guy that you're going to put around Zion and Brandon Ingram. And not that McCollum is bad. He is past the point in his career where he should be shooting more than 15 shots a game. He should still get 10. I think this game he shot 8. He's just not that guy anymore. He's not the guy that was next to Dame. I don't know how old he is off the top of my head. I think he's in his 30s now, which is crazy. In terms of this young New Orleans team outside of him, he's their veteran leader. When you look at New Orleans, I actually have to check this because I don't know what Zion's timetable is. Yeah, so Zion is going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. Anyway, we're talking about a team in the Pelicans that are playing without their best player. And whether you think Zion's their best player or not, I'm not going to argue with you. Zion is their best player. At his peak, he is what the ceiling of the Pelicans is. Obviously, this is a team that is very well constructed. Brandon Ingram's coming back from injury too. Maybe they can get in a rhythm. I just don't see a world where they upset OKC. Like I said, I'll get there. With the Kings now, it's hard because your team is still young and developing. But at some point, you either got to buy all in, push all your chips to the table, and see what happens, or you got to sell everything and blow it up. And there's a lot of teams out here that, it's championship or bust. And to me, the Kings are not a team that should even be in championship or bust territory, even though they do have some really great players, obviously Sabonis and Fox and Murray and Monk, even guys like Trey Lyles or Lewis, like we just said, they have really good players. You have all this young talent, but this young talent is going to get paid a lot. And then if they don't continue to develop after you've paid them, you are stuck. So I think that there's going to be a lot of potential shakeups with the Sacramento Kings here. It's interesting now looking back on the Sabonis trade. It's not really a win-win. I mean, both teams ended up making playoffs. Kings last year, Pacers this year. But I guess I just really have a soft spot for the Kings. I liked the beam, all of that gimmicky stuff. I was a sucker for it. They were obviously not a better defensive team than the Pelicans. They don't match up with the Thunder better. So in terms of getting better basketball, it was good that the Pelicans won this game. It just sucks because I want to see Zion. I want to see Zion in the playoffs. I want to see him versus the Thunder. I think those are two really young teams. It's going to be interesting, though. I'm just going to go down the line, look at all the series. Starting with the first series in the East. I'm talking about Celtics Heat. I'm just going to get it out of the way. Celtics in 5. The Heat fans wanted to talk like, we want Boston. No, you don't. No, you don't. Stop it. Stop deluding yourself. No, you don't. I promise you don't. I was watching that game. I heard the "We Want Boston" chants. I rewound it just to make sure I wasn't crazy, and I heard him again. The announcer mentioned that that's what the Heat fans are saying. That has never worked. That has never been a good thing. Everything bad always happens after fans chant, "We want blank." What happened to Nets fans? "We want Boston." Swept. Philly, "We want Boston." Not going to lie, Boston almost choked that one, but they still got, theirs in 7. They blew them out. Jason Tatum, 51 on your forehead, Doc Glenn Rivers. So forgive me for having irrational confidence in the fact that the Celtics are going to mop the floor with the Heat. Is that a flex? No, because the Heat, didn't take the regular season seriously, are now walking and honestly limping into the playoffs with no Jimmy Butler and a very depleted roster. If this series goes more than 6 games, if the Heat win 2, 3, if they win 4, I'm deleting the app. I can't. If the Celtics lose to the Heat right now, I'm just saying it, I am gonna lose my mind. I think that if Miami just took the regular season seriously, they wouldn't be in this situation. But they just have, and Pat Riley, honestly, the Dame trade, I cannot believe the Heat let Dame go. Overpay a little. I don't care. Get Dame in Miami. He wants to be there. Jimmy wants him there. Give up what needs to be given up. And I like Tyler Herro a lot. Can we talk about how cold he was now? And the Bam block on Tatum. As a Celtics fan, those are nightmares. You got to show respect for it, it was still really impressive, and the Heat are a great team. I'm not taking a victory lap on this one, and I'm not trying to flex of Celtics beat the Heat. Whoa. But the Heat fans are already talking crazy. When the Celtics win this series, they're just going to make the excuse of no Jimmy. So I'm not even buying into it. I'm not even listening to that. I'm not even going to troll and engage with it because it's stupid. Everything about it is stupid. They know that they're the underdog, so they're just going to talk that talk and then make the excuses when they lose, because at the end of the day, they're right. There is no Jimmy Butler, and if there is no Jimmy Butler, there is no chance for the Miami Heat. There's just none. It should not even be close. It should be a wrap. Celtics swept the season series. Celtics have the way better roster, have the healthier roster. They should absolutely take care of this in 5. Miami gets 1 game max. Moving on to Sixers-Knicks, which is a series that I wasn't really expecting. There's already some bulletin board material for the Knicks. Paul Reed saying that they're the easier matchup over the Celtics, which objectively is true. Paul Reed also said something about how he was happy that the Sixers matched his contract, so he didn't have to go to Utah. He was like, "Oh, there's nothing out there." And I was just like, dude, why are we giving Utah a stray? They're literally just chilling in the lottery right now. Damn. But, to his point, that's obviously why you wouldn't want to play there. I remember when the Celtics played the Nets, there was the "We Want Boston" chants, but Bruce Brown, actually, funny enough, said something, I don't remember what it was now, but he said something about we can attack them on the interior. And they had Rob Williams and Al Horford. And everyone was like, no, you can't. You are not the bigger team. You're not the better team. If he is the regular season Embiid that we saw, I can't believe we keep doing this. We're like, oh, well, if Embiid is the best player of all time, the Sixers will win. Duh. He was having the best season that a big man has had probably ever. Not ever, because Wilt and then Russell. In the modern era, it's one of the best center seasons you can think of if Embiid stayed healthy. 35 is a lot to average in general. As a center, nuts. If he plays like that player, honestly, are we crazy for picking the Knicks? In my opinion, I think the Knicks take this in 6 or 7. These are the two coaching terrorists, Tom Thibodeau and Nick Nurse, just constantly running your players through the ground with minutes on the side of Tibbs versus all of the traps and stuff. Whoever plays better out of Brunson or Embiid is probably going to win the series for their team, respectively. Embiid probably has an easier matchup. I like Hartenstein a lot, But it's like, it's Joel Embiid. You know what I mean? But also, Joel Embiid can get clamped up by Al Horford. So I don't know. It's really hard. I'm going Knicks in 6. I'm sticking with my gut. I'm going Knicks in 6. Moving on to Bucks Pacers. This is pretty simple for me. Bucks in 6. There is no way the Pacers come out of the first round. There's no shot. This Bucks team has title expectations. They fired their coach last year. There is no way the Bucks bow out. I don't care if there is no Giannis to start the series. There is no way that the Pacers blow Milwaukee off the court. They win 2 games max. Milwaukee is contending for a title here. They are going to win this series. I see a ton of people picking Indiana. I like Indiana. Indiana gets out and run, and the transition game by them is very, very good. But I am not going to pretend here that the Bucks can bow out in the first round back-to-back years. It's just not happening. I like Indiana. They are going to be good in the next couple of years. They definitely would have benefited from not playing Milwaukee right off the bat. There is no way this series goes longer than 6, and if it does, the Bucks are winning in 7. Indiana is not winning this series, and I stand on that 10 toes. I like Indiana. They made the Pascal Siakam move. I would be shocked if Milwaukee bowed out in the first round again, especially after acquiring Dame. No chance of it. Magic Cavs is a tough one for me because A, I like both of these teams. B, these are the teams that are going to play the Celtics in the next round. As an NBA fan, I want the Magic to play Boston. I love that. They match up really well with them. I think, honestly, Orlando could give them a rough series. Not that Cleveland couldn't. I would much rather see Cleveland as a Boston fan. I don't know why. I just feel like they have a lot less length on the perimeter to guard guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So when you look at the advantages, Orlando has the advantage on the perimeter, but the Cavs have the advantage on the interior. And so you look, and it's like, it's hard for me to pick a team right now in this series just because the teams are so evenly matched, in my opinion. Cleveland had a rough start, but then they kind of picked it up, and then they were the 2 seed, and then they fell to the 4 seed, and then Orlando was like struggling mid-year and then turned it around and then got all the way up to the 3 seed, but then fell to the 5 seed in the last couple of games. Like, there was a lot of shifting. I think both of these teams are pretty evenly matched up. It's a good 4-5 matchup. They're great defensive teams. Obviously, the Magic are better perimeter defenders, and the Cavs are good on the interior. I don't know what is going to matter more in this series. It's really about dictating pace of play. It's dictating strong, hard defense. If the Cavs are able to get out and run and lock down the interior, the Magic are really going to struggle. But if the Cavs can't get out and run, I think the Orlando Magic have just such a good half-court defense. I think, honestly, the Magic are going to win it in 7. I'm going to say Magic in 7. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a massacre one way or another. It's a matchup that if one team doesn't adjust and the other gets their way, it could very easily get ugly very fast. But I think it's going to be a long series, and I've got the Magic in 7. All right, now looking at the West, we have the Thunder and the Pelicans. I'm going to go Thunder in 6 just because without Zion, their offense is just so dynamic. Shea definitely has another gear that he can turn up to, so we'll see if he does. Jalen Williams is great. Chet Holmgren is a rookie, but he's been awesome. I think that physicality is going to be important, and if the Pelicans are not playing physical, they are not going to win 2 games. It could definitely get way worse than a 6-game series. The Pelicans are a gritty team, kind of like how Atlanta was last year versus the Celtics in the first round. If they had Zion, I could seriously sit up here and say to you that the Pelicans could actually upset. You would need a seriously good series from CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram and, Herb Jones, like all of those guys, Trey Murphy, Jonas Valanciunas, like Jose Alvarado, Larry Nance, like all of those guys, all of them, deep team. One of them, at the bare minimum, is going to have a generational series. Like, I'm talking multiple 40-point games. Because I don't see that happening, I think the Thunder are going to take it in 6. I could also see Thunder sweeping or winning in 5. But I'm going to go 6 out of respect for the Pelicans. I think the Pelicans are a great team. I don't feel like this is a lopsided matchup for either team. Again, kind of like what I said about Cleveland versus Orlando. If the Pelicans cannot keep the Thunder in the half court, and if they let the Thunder get out and run, it is not going to be good for them. So it's going to be a lot about dictating the pace of play. When you look at a team like the Pelicans, they are kind of playing with house money right now with no Zion. Nobody's going to pick them. What do they got to lose? With the Thunder, I don't think they lose in the first round. I don't think the series is going to be a write-off. I don't know what the experts, heavy quotations there on experts, are saying about this. I personally would say that I think the Thunder are going to have a lot tougher of a time than some people might think. They're still going to win. They're not bowing out in the first round. I doubt it. I really like the Pelicans, and I think the Pelicans can make this series a lot closer. So we're going to go with Thunder in 6. All right, now we've got Nuggets-Lakers V2, conference finals matchup from last year. Nuggets swept them. Lakers fans have convinced themselves that Bruce Brown was the biggest piece to that championship team. He was not. They would have paid him if he was. I think opening up opportunities for guys like Peyton Watson and Christian Brown, these are good players that are young and need an opportunity to shine. And that's kind of my thing, is like the Nuggets playing these young guys. Like, how do you as Doc Rivers not play your young guys, or as Steve Kerr not play your young guys? Like, that's the mold. I don't know how people don't catch on. That's what Denver's doing. They have great veteran leadership, and then off the bench they got a young guy, like a bunch of young guys. And the same thing with Boston. You know, you got Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser coming off the bench. Obviously Al Horford too, and then guys like Luke Cornett, like people that have been around for a while and been a part of the system. Still, it's just like you would think that Denver doing that would influence other teams, is my point. Regardless, the Lakers obviously have LeBron, they have Anthony Davis, they have Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, they have Rui Hachimura, they have all kinds of talent on their team this year. They really could make a run for it. They definitely are pissed off. I know they're pissed off. Just getting swept in the conference finals in general sucks. The Nuggets did have some crazy luck in that series, just like putting up crazy shots and making it. Murray and Jokic were unconscious. So I think that just because the Nuggets are going to have to get back into the swing of things, I could definitely see a world where the Lakers steal a couple of games, like maybe go up even 2-1, but then the Nuggets kind of storm back and close things down in 6. I have a lot of series going 6 here, but I really think a lot of these are evenly matched. But just for the sake of it, I'm going to go Nuggets in 5. But if it went 6, even 7, I wouldn't be super surprised. But Denver is just such a good team. They really are. And they would have to go like really out of character for them, for the Lakers to really claw their way into making this a close series. So just for the sake of it, I'm going to say Nuggets in 5. Again, this one is hard to predict for me because I could see, honestly, the Lakers winning in 5 too. Now we've got Wolves-Suns, which is going to be interesting for so many reasons. Yeah, they got Kevin Durant, but we got Jaden McDaniels. I don't know what I've seen anybody like bring that up of like, oh yeah, this is the playoff matchup of that. Minnesota has the defensive players to clamp up. And honestly, I don't see any reason why Anthony Edwards isn't guarding Bradley Beal or Devin Booker all the time. Anthony Edwards should cement himself in this series here. This is really important that he proves that he is better than Devin Booker, proves that he can clamp up Devin Booker, because when you look at the Suns, that is not a team you want to draw in the first round. This is one where there could be upset potential. Phoenix could definitely take this series, but again, you're talking about an offensive superpower team that has defensive potential versus a team that is offensively perfectly fine. Decent offense to good offense, depends, like with Cat. Karl Anthony Towns is back, but he's coming back off an injury, similar to the Brandon Ingram situation where you're just like, all right, he's not back to full form. Or Joel Embiid, too. Same kind of thing. They're coming back from injury. They're not themselves yet fully. At the end of the day, I really don't know what to do with this series. I like it a lot. The Wolves just have so much defense. At least this year you've got like Grayson Allen. We'll see if he's going to go back to a playoff dropper. That's kind of a big thing to watch in this series for me. Obviously, they just extended him recently. Good for him. Glad he got his money. He's been a great three-point shooter this season. He definitely does not have a great playoff track record. Just ask Bucks fans. So while that's said, I think that you definitely have the depth advantage for Minnesota. You have the superstar talent if you're Phoenix. I think the team matchups are in favor of Minnesota, especially if you have someone like Anthony Edwards guarding one of their star players. Like, Ant is a demon on defense. He gets all up in your face. He is physical. Obviously, we all saw his game-winning block. Like, he is a great defender. He just needs to put the effort in. And if he can eliminate one of the other team's stars, like if he can just take Beal or Booker out of the equation, and then you got Jaden McDaniels matching up with KD, trying to limit him. My heart says Phoenix. I just don't know if I can do that. I don't think I can. I think I'm going to go Wolves in 7. I think it's going to be a good series, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Wolves swept them 1-5. Like, I think the Wolves just are going to win this. I know star talent is a lot, but I'm going to go Wolves in 7. And now the other 4-5 matchup, we've got Mavs Clippers, Luka versus the Clippers again, Kyrie versus Harden. You know, you got a lot of storylines there. PG, Kawhi, Harden, Russ. They've also got Norman Powell. They have Zubac. Oh, my God. My bad, Zubac. He's a great player. I think when you look at the teams, one that is clearly been on a hot streak. Well, actually, the Clippers didn't have a great start to the year or end to the year. The Clippers kind of just had a good middle. The Mavs started off slow, but then they acquired some good pieces at the deadline, clawed their way out of the play-in, earned the 5 seed, and now they get a rematch with LA. I think LA is a different team than in the past when Luka has played them. It just sucks because it's like both of these are great teams, and one of them is going to bow out in the first round. For whatever reason, I trust Luka. I don't know why. Both of these teams have made conference finals in the past couple of seasons. This series is going to have a lot to do with Kawhi and his health. I think the Mavs are just a better cohesive unit right now. You've got Gafford and Lively and Washington all thriving next to Luka and Kyrie. Honestly, at this point in their careers, it's kind of crazy. It feels crazy to say this, but I feel like the Mavs have the better top 2 players. I don't think Kyrie's better than Kawhi, but I think Luka is better than Kawhi right now. I don't think that's a crazy statement. And I would take Kyrie over Paul George. I think Mavs in 6. That's what I'm going to go. I'm going to go Mavs in 6. I think this is going to be another good series. There's going to be a lot of competitive games, but I'm going Mavs in 6. I don't know why. It's just a gut feeling. If I'm betting on a team to lose in the first round, it's going to be the Clippers. But the Clippers could also go all the way to the championship. So I can't wait for all of these predictions to be wrong. I am going to make a tweet probably when the video goes up, just with my official predictions. But yeah, so it is now currently 1:52, and it is 4:20. So I'm going to go enjoy some basketball and something else. Without anything else, I hope that the playoffs is going to be fun for everyone. Let's just not be super toxic, please. I know that's a lot to ask for NBA fans. I don't even know why I'm doing it because it's not going to happen, but I am going to do my best to keep everything respectful and fun. I'm excited. The playoffs are always fun. I'm glad that the matchups are set. I can't wait to get into the games. I am going to do my best to keep making consistent updates and recapping these series as everything goes along. I'm really excited, as I've said, if you couldn't tell. I'm really stoked for this, and I'm so excited to go watch Magic Cavs. I know nobody else is, but if you don't like Magic Cavs, you don't like NBA basketball. That's all I got for you. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.